Good afternoon, everyone. It is Sunday, September 28th, 2025. We are keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Imelda, which now got designated a named storm this afternoon from the National Hurricane Center. This is bringing a lot of heavy rainfall, some flood impacts to the northern Bahama Islands, while we are also keeping an eye on Major Hurricane Humberto, which has not weakened a whole lot since yesterday and is still a formidable Category 4 hurricane with 145 miles an hour. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Sunday, September 28th, 2025. We are keeping a close eye on Tropical Storm Imelda, which got named from the National Hurricane Center early this afternoon. And we can clearly see with what it looks like here on satellite, we are talking about a lot of heavy rainfall, strong tropical storm force winds now impacting much of the Bahama Islands this afternoon, along to go with some high surf and some coastal impacts as well due to the strong winds from Tropical Storm Imelda. Then if there's time at the end of the video, we are going to briefly update you on Major Hurricane Humberto as it remains a Category 4 hurricane with 145 mile an hour winds. Now, when we zoom in a lot closer on Tropical Storm Imelda for your Sunday evening here across the northern Bahama Islands, we can see that the system has clearly become much better defined since this time yesterday, where it was almost an open wave trough where it was really broad in nature. The system has become much better defined here with a much more coherent, more tighter circulation here, with winds coming in out of the north here and clearly out of the west here down to the south, and winds pretty strong here on the eastern quadrant, and the winds wrap around something like this. So we do have a much better defined circulation that is now closed, where now the National Hurricane Center is designating this as a tropical storm because of its organization status. And most recently, we have had a new burst of deep convection here popping across the center of the circulation with some banding features, especially on the northern and eastern half of the semicircle here of Tropical Storm Imelda, meaning that the system is showing signs of further organization. Now, when we zoom back out here on Tropical Storm Imelda over the Bahamas, we can clearly see on the water vapor imagery, we do have this big tongue of dry air that is now approaching over Florida, now over the northern portion there of Cuba, actually northwestern Cuba over here. And this is going to get entrained into Tropical Storm Imelda over the next few days at preventing it from rapidly intensifying into an explosive storm that Humberto did yesterday and the day before, where it underwent some rapid intensification. This is not the case with Imelda, since it's going to be interacting with this drier air off to its west, along to go with some vertical wind shear and this trough-like future that will help to encroach that shear and drier air over the system. So this is not in no hurry to rapidly intensify over the next 3 to 4 days. So now with that being said, let's take a look here at our track forecast on Tropical Storm Imelda over the next 5 to 7 days here, as everybody in Florida needs to be watching this system pretty closely, along to go with Georgia and the Carolina coast, because even so this is not going to make landfall, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert on that. There's still going to be some heavy rainfall that the Carolinas get, along to go with Florida and Georgia over the course of the next 4 to 5 days. So putting this into motion here for this afternoon on your Sunday and Sunday evening into early Monday morning, we can see where Imelda here is with a winds of 40 miles an hour and a central pressure down to about 1,001 millibars. As we put this into motion throughout the day tomorrow, though, the system doesn't move a whole lot. This is going to be a slow mover type system. It's been that way for a while now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So in 36 hours here, by Monday afternoon, we have a system that is just to the north here of the Bahama Islands, Great Abaco Island up here, while we're also keeping an eye on a very powerful Hurricane Humberto still for the day tomorrow. Yes, Humberto is really racking up those ace points. But these two systems are going to at least have some interaction with each other. And it does look like, because Humberto's a little further west, and because we have Imelda a tad bit to the east than what we previously thought, at least during this period of time in the forecast, there will be some binary interaction here, enough to where Humberto should yank the storm a little bit off to the east. than what we had previously in previous model runs. And we can see if we go back and look at model runs just nearly a couple of days ago from Friday, we can see that the system was a lot faster and Humberto was a little bit slower at this given time. So there was some notable changes to where we are at now, or where we will be at on Tuesday or Monday afternoon. What the models have been saying. So if we look at 2 model runs ago, this is what it looked like. If we look at today's 12Z European model, we can see Humberto a little faster than what we previously thought. And that makes now Imelda a lot slower. And so the change here has made to a huge difference and more consistent as far as where this is going to go now. And you'll see that here on the Euro. So as you can tell, the Euro is right here, so it's not moving much further north than pretty much this position. If we go to last night or yesterday morning's model run, it was a lot further north because it was thinking that Humberto was going to be a little bit slower. Now, Humberto is moving a little bit faster than what was previously thought, which means now Imelda is not going to be able to move north fast enough to where it can now impact the Carolinas or Georgia. And instead, it's moving slower than what we previously thought, meaning that it's not going to make a whole lot of northern progression before it makes this turn off to the east, if that makes sense. It's really about these 2 storms. Humberto moving faster, Imelda moving slower now, which means all of the difference. Okay? So let's put this now into motion, and you can see over the next 3 days, Imelda goes off into the Atlantic, doesn't bother anybody at all, although Bermuda needs to be watching Humberto very closely, as you're going to get tropical... Oh, wait, Bermuda's way up here, or is it not? Let's see. Okay, Bermuda's way up here. It's a very small island right there. So yes, tropical storm force winds for Bermuda, not only with Humberto, but potentially with our system here with Imelda moving just to the south of Bermuda. So yes, a 1-2 kick here potentially to the poor small island of Bermuda over the course of the next 4 days. So definitely have your hurricane preparation in place, because some very heavy rainfall, high surf, beach erosion, as well as heavy rainfall is possible with these 2 systems, especially with Humberto, with some of the outer bands clipping your area. And then that system basically kind of hangs around for a while for the next 6 days here, according to the latest Euro. Now, if we look at the GFS model has been pretty consistent on this general evolution versus the European model. If we go to yesterday's 12Z model run, the GFS was a little bit further south at the time than the Euro was. And now today we can see how these trends have locked in now, with a system being in this location in about a couple of days before the turn happens to the east, as Humberto tries to yank it and catch the system a little bit off to the east, if that makes sense, because now we have lower heights in this general area. So really the only way out of this is for Imelda to go off to the east, because Humberto is in the way. If Humberto was a lot faster, then this whole track would be a whole lot different. Okay, so that's what we're seeing there. And then in the next 3 to 4 days, you can see Humberto clips, well, doesn't really clip Bermuda, but still bringing tropical storm force winds. And then on this model in particular, the GFS has Imelda moving directly over Bermuda with very strong tropical storm force winds, maybe even hurricane force winds, in fact, in that general location in about 4 days. So definitely watch Imelda very closely, because this is a system that Bermuda needs to be watching very carefully. So now that we talked about the track forecast evolution with Tropical Storm Imelda, let's talk about how strong Imelda might get over the next 5 days here. And this is the look at the latest H-Wharf parent run, showing us the deep layer moisture plot here. Anything in turquoise and green colors indicate lots of moisture in the deep layers of the atmosphere. We have a lot of dry air here in brown that is going to make for some inhibition of this system, preventing it from otherwise rapidly intensifying in this moist environment. And the vertical wind shear is also going to be on the increase just a little bit. So putting this into motion, the evolution works like this. We have a lot of moisture. We have this tongue of drier air that we were looking at here. We go back to the water vapor imagery. We can see just how dry the air is with all this black on the screen indicating some very dry, deep layer air that is in the troposphere right now over Florida. And this is well modeled in our hurricane model evolution suite today. So in the next 18 hours, so pretty much by Monday morning, we can see, yes, we have a lot of moisture. So keep that in mind. Heavy rainfall, gusty winds are certainly a possibility over the Carolinas beginning tomorrow late morning, early afternoon, while the system is well to the south here. So keep in mind this vertical wind shear is going to stretch the moisture out, and what we call deformation of character here is that the system is going to get stretched thin due to that vertical wind shear as this drier air punches in on the southern side of the system, on the back side that is. Okay, and going over the next 36 hours, we can see that, yes, an inner core structure does try to form, but each time it does try to form, we get these intrusions of drier air. We can see a little bit of a dry slot here. We got another little bit of a dry slot in here trying to work its way into the system, and we even got some drier air here in the inner core structure of Imelda. And as we actually look closer here at the H-Wharf model and zoom a lot closer in, you can see that's Humberto. My bad. Let's go to Imelda. There we go. That's what we want to see. You could also see there is vertical wind shear here because if we look at the surface circulation here, you can see where the surface is, and there is the mid-level circulation. So there is a little bit of tilt with height with this system, and that's not surprising given the fact that we have vertical wind shear out of the southerly direction trying to yank the storm northward, while Humberto is trying to yank the storm further to the east. So that's what we end up seeing here, and the system does not recover a whole lot here, where it's very miscombobulated, where it doesn't develop a very well stout inner core structure to where it can fend off some of the vertical wind shear, and we still have some drier pieces of air moving inward of this system while we are trying to get a little bit of an inner core structure forming on this system. And as we go forward, the system really never recovers from that vertical wind shear at all. And it is very, very tilted with height. So tilted that there is barely any eye wall at all to the south, and probably not even any rainfall, as matters of fact, here in 84 hours on Imelda, while most of the rain is to the north. You can see the tilt here with the vortex, very much tilted with height off to the north and the northeast, indicating the presence of vertical wind shear. So now looking at the upper level wind pattern here, clearly showing you what that vertical wind shear looks like. And the reason why we are seeing vertical wind shear here is not because of Humberto, but because of where the system is positioned underneath of. So we got this upper level low that is over the Tennessee Valley, and we got a trough that is draped off of it to the south. And on the eastern side of this upper level wave pattern, we have this southerly flow moving over the system. So we are not seeing anticyclonic flow around the system, where if Imelda was down more underneath right here, basically over the Turks and Caicos Islands, it would be able to breathe that out a little bit more effectively, where we get outflow in all quadrants, something that looks kind of like this. This is what you want to see, but what you don't want to see is a flow that just does this. Yes, there is some diffluent flow aloft at 200 millibars, but it is not ideal for this system to thrive within, where it can explosively intensify to a major hurricane of sorts. However, though, what might help the system a little bit is how far south and how soon does a turn to the east go. Because if it does turn to the east a little bit here, there may be a point in this forecast where the vertical wind shear does come down a little bit here, especially in about 3 days, or 2 to 3 days, as matters of fact, where we don't have a whole lot of strong vertical wind shear over the system, where we end up seeing a little bit of an outflow being deflected to the west of the system and also to the north. So this is a little bit of a healthier optimal position where we have Imelda to where it might be able to strengthen just a little bit more before the vertical wind shear, because yes, we have another trough off to the west of it that will catch up to the system, and you'll see that here in the modeling. Watch this trough try to catch up and get absorbed within the westerly flow, and that's going to really increase the vertical wind shear over Imelda, and that will put an end to any strengthening that Imelda might try to do otherwise. This is the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, highlighting again a tropical storm over the next 24 to 36 hours, as we mentioned, all the way through Tuesday morning. So tropical storm warnings are in effect for Great Abaco for most of the Bahama Islands here to the north. So make sure you are taking this seriously with heavy rainfall that is expected, along to go with tropical storm to near hurricane force wind gusts, perhaps with this, along to go with really rough surf conditions as well from the ocean. So some coastal flooding is also a great possibility here as Imelda moves generally to the north here at about 9 miles an hour. And then this turn eventually to the east will commence. That's what we know pretty well. And the cone has become notably less fatter. Yesterday, we were talking about how big the cone of uncertainty is. This has gone a lot smaller because now confidence has increased that this turn to the east will occur in about 36 to 48 hours, bringing the hurricane out to sea, but also threatening Bermuda here. And notice these H's as well. This indicates hurricane conditions are looking very likely as Imelda continues to strengthen throughout the next 4 to even perhaps 5 days. And then extratropical transition could occur or could begin as soon as 5 days. Now, the chances of tropical storm force winds have gone up notably, of course, for the northern Bahamas here, with a 90 to 100% chance of tropical storm force winds occurring there as early as late tonight into early Monday morning. So again, this is a time to get prepared to board up any windows if necessary due to strong tropical storm force winds, possibly hurricane force wind gusts. So this is the time you need to prepare before tropical storm force winds arrive there overnight tonight. And then in Bermuda, there is a 60 to 70% chance of tropical storm force winds arriving in that area as early as Wednesday night for that small island of Bermuda. So make sure you are getting prepared not only with Humberto, but also soon to become Imelda moving over that area in about 4 days. Now, another concern about Tropical Storm Imelda is how much rainfall can Imelda bring to some locations across the southeastern United States of the Carolinas, including for Florida. So looking at the latest Weather Prediction Center here, you can see the rainfall totals. Good news here that I have for you all in today's video is rainfall total forecasts have come down notably over the last couple of days. I mean, Wilmington was going to get potentially up to 6 inches of rainfall. Now you're only expecting to see maybe up to 1 or 2 inches of rainfall in Wilmington, North Carolina. Cape Hatteras could see 3/4 of an inch of rain. Charleston, as well as if you're in Myrtle Beach, you could see up to about 1.5 to 2 inches of rainfall. Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, all the way down the coastline of, say, if you are in Daytona Beach, Florida, you might see up to about 1 inch or 2 of rainfall with this system. So good news that I have for you all today is that rainfall impacts have come down notably for the mainland United States. But however, those have come up notably, unfortunately, for the northern Bahama Islands, where you might see 8 to potentially 12 inches of rainfall. That is a lot of rainfall, and you're already seeing rain now. So this is additional rainfall to come. So significant flooding on the northern Bahama Islands looks very likely. Another threatening impact that Tropical Storm Imelda will bring is very high surf along the southeastern coast of the United States, as well as the northeast coast too, including Florida and the Bahamas, of course. So with that, here's a look at the significant wave height from the European model forecast, and we can see those waves will definitely be on the increase over the next 36 hours. Right now, they're not very tall, but they will be getting taller and taller over the next 36 to 48 hours here, with wave heights potentially getting up and over 10 to 12 feet perhaps. Along the coast or the immediate coast, you're looking at waves probably between about 8 to 10 feet. But further offshore, of course, if you're a boater, if you're sailing, you could see wave heights up and over 12 to 14 feet perhaps, as strong Tropical Storm Imelda brings waves out away from it. So the waves are going to be intimating out kind of like this, and that's going to bring a lot of surf, a lot of coastal impacts, potentially some coastal flooding, as well as beach erosion in some of the sensitive beaches. So keep that in mind, and very high rip current risk as well. So don't go to the beaches over the next 3 to 5 days, as surf is going to certainly be pretty high out there. Not as high as what we had with Aaron, but high enough to where lifeguards could be putting out red or pink flags, which means it is extremely dangerous to go swimming due to rip currents that are going to be very high. So now, as far as the intensity forecast goes on our spaghetti plot on Tropical Storm Imelda as of the 18Z forecast here, so this is basically showing us what is the ranges of possible outcomes of how strong Imelda might get here based on different model solutions. And right now, most of the models do bring this to a Category 1 hurricane over the next 60 to 84 hours. So that means winds greater than 75 miles an hour, or greater than 74, all the way up to about 96 miles an hour. And some models here are going a little bit aggressive here, even showing a Category 2 hurricane in the same time frame. So yes, there are some outliers here potentially showing a fairly strong hurricane, and that would be the HMNI model. So that would be the HWRF model, showing a bit stronger hurricane than what most of the models are showing. Therefore, my intensity forecast has been raised significantly from the previous one, and now I am forecasting Imelda to become a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane in the next 3 to 4 days, right where the National Hurricane Center is forecasting their intensity as well. So this has a bit of a high ceiling here at making a run for a high-end Category 1 hurricane, potentially a Category 2 in about 3 to almost 4 days. Now, the good news and bad news about the track forecast here on the spaghetti plot on Imelda is that the bad news is this is moving over the Bahama Islands, bringing a lot of flooding and everything else with what a tropical storm typically brings, with big impacts potentially possible over Bermuda over the next 4 to 5 days. So keep that in mind. But the good news is in all of this that the flood risk has dropped significantly over the southeastern United States, which is great news, with only a marginal to even a slight risk for flooding along the immediate coast, but most areas expecting at least some level of marginal flooding. So it's not like a high risk event or a moderate risk of flooding. This is very low now, which is great news for a lot of our friends that live in the Appalachian Mountains. From Helene from last year, that did bring one of the worst flood events of all time in that area. So we could kind of rest assured here that this system is now going to be turning offshore and not bringing as big of impacts for the southeast. But unfortunately, someone else is getting impacts, and that is the Bahama Islands, the northern Bahamas, as well as Bermuda, perhaps, in the 3 to 4 day period. But anyways, with that being said, on Tropical Storm Imelda as well as Humberto, I didn't have time to get to Humberto today, but this is going to be a very intense hurricane as it continues to move off to the northwest and rounds the subtropical ridge and moves just to the northwest of Bermuda safely, still bringing tropical storm-like conditions as well as near hurricane conditions eventually over the next 3 to 4 days. So make sure you have your hurricane evacuation plan in place just in case if you do have to evacuate because of how strong Humberto actually is this afternoon and evening. But anyways, if you did find today's tropical weather outlook and discussion very helpful, detailed, informative, and life-saving, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that bell notification icon if you haven't already, so you get daily tropical weather updates and alerts here on the channel, including live streaming coverage if necessary on any tropical landfall if it's strong enough and it's going to be a high impactful event. Please like the video if you haven't already, and also please leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are with Tropical Storm Imelda as well as Humberto going forward. I would love to hear your guys' answers on that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back with you more soon with more updates on the tropics.